So this was like, if this was 3:24 on, what was it, Sunday the 28th of June, we'd be talking about how well New Zealand had played and, Conway and Tom Latham's knocks on the first day and all that sort of type of thing. And then 3:25 came round and we're obviously going to be talking about Stokes and all and what's happened subsequently. Clearly, if we start a show without me saying hello to you, you get all uppity. So why don't we go with evening, Geraint? How are you? And were you on a tractor when you first heard the news? Let's start with that.
Hello, mate. I was going to keep quiet after you told me off last week, so yeah, that's quite nice of you to say hello. I was actually sat in the dugout watching Kent play Hampshire in the T20, and my watch buzzed, and the news came up: Stoke to retire from England cricket, and there's a few lads around because we were batting, and Zach Crawley was one of them. And when I said it, there was quite disbelief in their eyes and shock, which was the same as a lot of people.
I think that, I guess, all the stuff that's happened to him, and it seems to go back to 2017, doesn't it, with the Bristol incident. I mean, it seems to be lingering that there's some sort of vendetta from what he calls the suits against him. But he seems to have gone back to Durham, scored those runs, I assume, chatted with family and come back and made a decision. But the timing was interesting, wasn't it?
Yeah, and the other with the timing side of it, I think I was listening to Test Match Special driving somewhere after that, and they thought that maybe there had been a leak about it get out, and
Yeah,
so
okay.
rather than it be that night, it almost had to be then and there. So that's because it is random, when he's out on the field bowling. They subsequently showed videos of him in the dressing room telling the lads. Yeah, so yeah, that bit of it very random of the timing when it came out, that is for sure. And I do think we spoke about it, I think, in last week's pod. I do think that pressure has played a massive part in it, and that's build up. If you go right back to, as you mentioned, the Bristol incident, COVID was a tough time. He's been through some ups and downs of cricket, that is for sure, and some magnificent highs. Again, I was out in the fields picking up a load of horse poo today, listening to Test Match Special, and they were going through his great highs, but with that has been some lows, and that's something I think has always been around Ben's character. Even when playing for Durham, there was word of this lad, unbelievably talented up in Durham, but a bit loose in the edges.
Yeah. I mean, how the rumour mill then works within cricket. It's quite a small group, isn't it? In terms of, you hear things quite easily. And then I heard that, going back to that Bristol incident, that even though he was out late at night and got himself in a situation that ends up with fisticuffs, he didn't think that he'd done anything wrong, and he wasn't prepared necessarily to to accept any responsibility for it. He's obviously matured, as we all do over the years, but just I didn't like the way that it happened. I mean, yes, it was pre-planned, wasn't it? When he spoke with Aggers, or I think it was Aggers, he was saying that he spoke to Michael Lubb and Neil Fairbrother, his agents, and he just said to him, deal with it as you want to or whatever. But ultimately, resigning, it's unprecedented, isn't it? An England captain or an England player resigning in the midst of a series that they go on to lose, and we must say, I guess, well played New Zealand.
Yeah, the only similar one you could think, to Graham Swan did it mid series in an Ashes series, didn't he? But in the middle of the day is incredible. And there's bits I even telling McCullum on that morning, I'm done. And it's very much been, and that's the words that I've heard him use, is I'm done. No, it's over, because people are speculating he's going to relax. He's going to spend time with his family. He's going to play at Durham, which he says he enjoys.
Yeah.
And we're going to have him back for the Ashes. And the way that Stokesy was talking this afternoon is almost like the furthest thing from his mind, and the last thing he wants to do is play for England again. He's done it. He's had his time, and he's almost that sort of character. He's moving on, and so it's a real shame. And he's done some incredible things, but there's the last sort of 24 hours is, will that be what people remember? Hopefully not.
Well, I think, in all the interviews that he did, he kept saying the last 2 weeks, the last few days, that's which suggests that something within the hierarchy of the ECB has led him. And if I link that back to what I said about 2017, it may well be that yet again he felt he wasn't supported, and that support wasn't going to be there. If you do it again, we're going to fire you, sort of type of thing. I'm putting words in people's mouths here. But there was a lot of love and support for Stokes at Trent Bridge yesterday and even today. But I think over time, do you think his legacy will end up being the last day? How the resignation came out, and then the stuff afterwards left a bad taste in my mouth, at least in terms of putting himself up to open, and it just seemed to me like it was very much the Ben Stokes show. Whereas the captaincy that he'd put forward in previous years was anything but.
And even his play, we talk about, his innings in World Cup finals, is that the Ashes innings, they were talking today on his 200 he scored in Cape Town. And that's what I hope people remember. But the one thing I get what you're saying is because I link it back to Kevin Peterson. The way Kevin Peterson finished, we don't remember those knocks that he played. We know he's a great player, but people link it around to KP the person, and almost what he did as a player has in the background a bit. And I really hope that's not the case for Ben Stokes, because it's only been a short period of time. I want people to remember those innings I've just mentioned, and they were all where were you at that point in time moments. Sort of when everything went that super over when he went out there, all that sort of stuff. And I think people will resonate with him because he was that battler. He would come out and he never took a backward step, and really those last 4 and a bit years he led from the front. There was another sort of comment that, he not only did he'd lead from the front, he was the one breaking the hole in the wall for the rest of the team to walk through. He would, and the man manager he was, that it was clear that he got the boys to follow him in that regard, and a lot of it was through his actions himself.
Yeah, which again seems odd that then and he's come out as a tactical thing. They'd spoken about it, over the last couple of days about him opening, but Emilio Gay looked very surprised when he was halfway running back to put his pads on when he was told he wasn't going to be opening the batting. So it can't have been that bad. What I don't like about it,
I don't buy that. I don't buy that bit for a minute. I think that was I don't buy that. That was a spur of the moment sort of.
It was,
decision.
Yeah, 100%. All right, let's park that. It is what it is. What the bit actually I don't like was how that then seemed to be a license for other players to play like they did. And by other players, I mean Harry Brook. He's not, and we're going to talk about Brook when it comes to captaincy in a minute, but that's the bit I didn't like. Well, there was this big reset and all the reset that wasn't a reset. I mean, it's like Einstein, isn't it? Just, expecting a different result even though you're doing the same thing. It's just the same side, same management setup, pretty much. It was just Zach, really, wasn't it? Crawley was the only change, really, from an Ashes side. And, they go out and on that last day, play exactly the same way. It was like Bazball's final hurrah. But, Varney, especially on TMS, was abject with, in his assessment of Harry Brook and that inning. Did you see much of it? Well, it didn't last very long.
Well, I listened to it, and it just sounded ridiculous as I'm sure it was watching. And you're right, it just wasn't Test match cricket. And you can talk about the reasons for it, but ultimately the one thing that listening today is that they got to 50 for no wicket.
Yeah.
So they'd done that job of they'd done that shock tactic of surprising New Zealand and getting them to a place, and that's what has been critical of this England side, is they do the work, they get to a position, and then the brain gets put over there, and they carry on, and that's what we've talked about. That's what a lot of people have talked about, is the evolution and the improvement of this England side under McCullum, and him wanting to be this not carefree but sort of free way of playing and playing situations is okay, but well and good. but this is Test match blooming cricket,
Yeah.
and you can do that. But when you get in a position that you have the opposition where you want them, and that's what everyone was looking at. Harry Brook coming out to bat today, Ben Stokes sort of getting through, going into last night being one or two down, that puts a bit of fear. And then subsequently, you see what happens today with New Zealand's cricketers, New Zealand's bowlers. And so that's the frustration. Is you're absolutely right. And when we're talking about captains, and even though McCullum says there's leaders in the group, well, where were they?
Well, yeah, exactly.
That's the big, yeah.
By the way,
That was where were they to say, hang on a minute.
New Zealand's bowlers, most of them are on the injury table, if you like. And I mean, with the medic, I mean, they only had a couple of bowlers out there. But then if you look at the way New Zealand played, and again, the problem with New Zealand is, we've talked about the future of Test cricket and all that sort of thing. They get lumped in with the West Indies, don't they, in Sri Lanka and stuff. But and we said at the beginning of this series, what a good side they were, and England shouldn't take them lightly and take them for granted. Conway, I was there on Thursday, 35 degrees. I was in the press box, so I wasn't hot. But Latham and Conway, obviously they won the toss, and batted in that heat beautifully to get 150 each. Ravindra was unlucky not to get 100. He got 94. And then Daryl Mitchell gets battered, by England's quick. He's got, hit on the head twice, bruises, fingers, to battle, and that's the key word, battle his way to a Test match 100, which must mean a lot to those of you who have got one. Yet Harry Brook comes out like he's playing in the park. So you've got McCullum's, get the freedom thing, but you've got to temper that with some responsibility.
Yeah, and Mitchell played. Did you see the picture that's been circulating of Mitchell in the changing room? He takes his top off.
Yeah, yeah.
He's got those purple bruises, and that is exactly what he had. He wore a few. It wasn't a straightforward wicket, but he was prepared to do. And I think that was what he was prepared to do. Was what we expect Test match cricketers to be prepared to do, is to put your body on the line, to scrap and work out a method, work out a how, which can get you runs and longevity, because the longer you're at the crease, generally the higher you score. And then at the right time, he took on the attack and hit those sixes. So it was one of those ones where, as a coach, you'd sit down your players and you go, just take a look at that innings. This is how you tough it out. You don't go into your shell because he still scored, but this is what is required.
Yeah,
we've got a level we need to get to, and that little crazy 16 overs or whatever it was threw away any chance that England had of making New Zealand uncomfortable today in that last day.
Do you think there's going to be any knock-on effect in terms of other people going? So Key and McCullum, I guess, are the two, because I don't think any of the players are in particular danger.
I think there'll be those guys will be thinking, I think, because they were almost like a leadership group of three that worked together. Yes, it's been added to 4 to Marcus North, but Keezy was the one that would really sort of align himself to the way McCullum's sort of wanted the team to play. So I get that. That's absolutely right. And then with that, the way Stokesy is. So that will be the interesting bit, because there's the rebuild has to happen now. And so then you want people. I don't think you want to have. It sounds like a blooming Ashes chat, doesn't it? I don't think you want to throw out. Keezy's under a lot of pressure. I've been reading in the press. There's a lot of press guys really, really going for him. But almost now it's a time where you need people who've been in that role, understand what's required, and to galvanise and push forward. McCullum has said he wants to stay on, and so McCullum under a different leader, we may see a different side of things, who take on the good bits and then grow with this new leader to make a better England side. And then it will just be depending on, and then you've got Keezy doing what he's doing, and then you've got Marcus North involved. So I don't want to see it all chucked out and come, because that is just so much upheaval. I think there needs to be a bit of settling down. So the fact it's the end of the series isn't a bad thing. Although the one day as the T20 start Wednesday night.
Yeah, against India. Yeah.
So for me, they've all just been given a big tick of approval by the powers that be to stay in. We're not we're not that many months beyond that tick of approval.
No.
All of a sudden, you can't be wielding the axe to get rid of them because the skipper has decided it's enough.
But at some point, so for me, I look at it differently. I think, you know, Ashes are normally big resets. People go, big broom, clear them all out, etc. Didn't happen this time. Fine. They gave them the New Zealand series. We won on a really poor pitch at Lords. Got smashed at the Oval and at Trent Bridge. Obviously had the going out incident. Got a resignation. They played like they did on the final day. If you were Richard, the two Richards at the top, Thompson and Gould, you'd be thinking, well, okay, well, gave you a chance and you didn't take it. We're going to do something about it. I mean, if you were in business, for example, and your management team didn't perform, even though you were told that you had to perform, you'd make changes. Why wouldn't it be an England in a sporting context?
So is it? So I'll throw it back to you then. So everything you said there, is it the players to blame or the management who, two of those guys, well, especially one in Kesey, he's not out on the pitch. He's not throwing to them. He's not doing all the technical stuff. It's the players that we've, with Emilio Gay's being the introduction, and they brought Robinson back and he couldn't play 2 tests in a row because of his knee injury. But
Yeah.
so is it the players that's the issue or the management? Because everyone's not lots being saying about the players. It's all been thrown at the management. Whereas this is a very similar group we've had playing for a while now.
Yeah, look, I think in answer to that, I'd say that the players the players execute on the pitch, but they execute plans that are set by the leadership group. They always talk about brand of cricket nonsense. Ultimately that's like what how do we want to play? And England has styled themselves as these great entertainers. But I think the results, I can't remember what it is. In terms of now the record is quite poor in terms of number of series won. I can't remember what that is, but it's not great nowadays. And if you put the same group of players out with if Peter Moores, for sake of example, right, you brought Peter Moores back, or Andy Flower. I know Varney's been calling for Andy Flower to come back. Gary Kirsten, but that sort of type of coach, and he had a team with them, and those same set players played for that coach, you'd probably see them approach it differently. And I think, I'm saying, you're the ex-player. I guess if you were, when you played for Duncan Fletcher, or if you had a different coach, and you were taught and told different things, you would approach it differently, wouldn't you?
Yeah, and so then as you've been talking, it sort of struck me that maybe a new leader is a bit of the answer. That by a new captain coming in, someone who's maybe not so closely aligned with McCullum's thinking, because I think Stokes backed it. There's been rumours of let's call it a falling out in brackets sort of stuff around a little bit of the style, but maybe having someone, which leads to the bigger issue, the next person that comes in to captain may not be as forthright as someone as Ben Stokes. And I think Ben Stokes playing the way he did and leading the way he did the charge, well, the other players sort of followed. And for me, it's, as a player, I followed my captain really closely. My coach was someone who was there watching over me and to chat to and to help me through. But I followed my coach. When Varney wanted something out of me or the players, he came up and spoke to me and would sort of tap me on the shoulder or do whatever and sort of demand some runs from me, in a good way, to say, have you got a 50 for me today, lad? And that was his way of saying, I need some runs.
Yeah.
And so but what he would never do was tell me my method. And I think maybe that's where it's become a bit clouded, is the method has been told to them. So they're doing that. So bringing in a new skipper, maybe still with McCullum's thoughts of positivity, because by is an amazing man manager. I've met him I met him when I was with the Lions, and he's got that aura about him. I could see how he commands people and how he gets them together. So with a new captain and McCullum, maybe we could see it move to the direction of play that I think a lot of people are yearning for England to play.
McCullum and Harry Brook sound like England Test cricket's worst nightmare, though, don't they?
I think Harry Brooks proved that to everyone
Yeah,
with that
yeah,
innings. You know,
yeah,
Varney was very, very harsh, and it takes. You know, Varney can be negative at times, but that was pure frustration. Everyone, even the New Zealand players, have been picked up on stump mic asking, "What the hell are they doing?"
yeah,
You know, just in complete amazement because it's Test and I think it might be Stuart Broad spoke very well. So Test cricket isn't T20. You can play the same way. You know, you swing but
yeah.
Test cricket you have to play in different methods around the world. Within a Test match, you may have to play in different ways. And so the way that Harry Brook has played there, it was pretty brainless, and it was disappointing to hear and see that when a Test match is on the line like that you're just willing to throw away your wicket. So again, I bring it. I don't think he can be the captain, and he sort of he proved that to everyone. But the issue is who you know. We've got
Well,
Joe
this is
Root was a saviour in
yeah.
Test two, but his tactics were questioned as to not having changed very much from when he decided to give it up. So yeah, so
We're
if I'd argue if Zach Crawley was still playing and getting some runs, he could argue potentially would have been the next captain, but his
that
form let him down.
that might still happen, mightn't it? Because if you look around the country, see well, actually, two-part question. Part one, which you can't really answer, is how on earth has the ECB or English cricket got itself in a situation where there is no succession planning for the captaincy? That's the one you can't really answer, I suppose, because it's just speculation. And the second part to that is who is the next captain? We're at a Mike Brearley moment in time where you basically need to bring in a captain who may or may not be good enough for England, but is a great captain at a county side. But again, who is that person? I can't. I was talking to a couple of people today, as you know, and we couldn't collectively think of who that person could be. I got back to bring back Jimmy. That was
Yeah.
Anderson. That was the only person I could think of to think, right, okay, who commands that level of respect and could probably still play international cricket. I mean, but how is this? How have we got to this point?
Yeah, it is a real concern because it's not long. Is it Pakistan series
Pakistan at the end of
at the end of the year,
September, a couple of end of the summer, and then England
end
go
of
to
the
South
summer?
Africa, Bangladesh, and the Ashes. That's it.
Yeah, so there's again we talked about it in the lead up to this first test of this series as opportunities for people playing county cricket. Well, this is a massive opportunity for someone to sort of put their hand up or put the first and foremost the guys within the group. You know,
Yeah.
let's have a look at them. And actually,
Who?
I don't mind listening to the way Ben Duckett spoke about his application and the way he's moving forward. And he got some fitness under his belt. You know, he's 5 kgs lighter
Yeah.
than he was. He recognised that it's not gone. And actually, after his 100 and the he was quite emotional getting that 100 because it means something to him. And as I'm just flicking as we're talking,
Yeah.
just flicking my way down the order. You know what? Ben Duckett, even though he's got his history about getting late night cabs when he should be at home in bed, he actually sort of he grew on me with that interview and with that innings. So he may be someone that they could look to and they go to because his place is secure. You know, he leads out the way from the front, and I think he's a pretty decently cricket savvy guy.
Ollie Robinson's the only club county captain in that side. Does that have any bearing on the whole thing if you're already a captain?
Well, the issue with Ollie Robb is the one thing is the black cloud that's always hung over his head is his fitness.
Yeah, true.
You know, if he's as a
Yeah, yeah.
fast bowler, if he's got a dodgy knee, you you can't be you can't be chopping and changing your captain because of he's as a fast bowler is going to break down at some point, whereas batters generally are going to stay in there. And so yeah, he does captain his side, but even that has its issues down at Sussex with his personality. And so yeah, maybe as I sit here tonight looking Ben Duckett could be someone we could be seeing wearing the England blazer, tossing the coin against Pakistan.
I think there's one word to describe the state that English cricket has got itself into, Jonesy, and that is shambolic. Okay, right. So let's go from that chat about England and a makeup of how we see the team going forward. I asked you to put together your best England 11 of your life, so i.e. these 90s, 2000s, etc. Go on, give it to me. Who have you got? Let's do openers first. Obviously, I'll do mine. We'll do it. Who have you got at the top of your list?
I've got, Gooch and Cook.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
What's going to be interesting there is where you're going to get the keeper in and who the keeper is, because I've gone for Cook and Alex Stewart because I wanted to get a keeper in high up. Although I was talking to Straussy today and he said to me, he can't open and keep. I did point out it was a mythical sign, and Stewie's like nearly 60 or something, but he did do it before. He said, but not very often. So I've gone there. So let's go through your middle order then, and we'll do the full sides at the end.
Okay, I've got 3. I've got Varney to play and to captain and then you got to pick Root.
Yeah.
Then I've gone KP 2, 4, and then Freddie and Stokes.
Okay.
I've gone double all rounder.
Yeah, so I'm very similar. My 3 is David Gower, not Varney, and then my 4 is Root, 5 is KP, 6 is Fred, and my 7 is Lord Botham. I actually haven't picked Stokes.
Okay.
At all. So we'll talk about that in a bit. And then what have you got after that? I'm still waiting for your keeper.
And neither of us have picked Sir Andrew Strauss.
No, I know, and I told him that today when I saw him. He was my other choice. I said I'd have picked you, mate, but I couldn't get a keeper in. So he was jettisoned by me.
I could reply Vaughan or Strauss. I'd be happy with, but anyway. And then my keeper is Jack Russell. He's got to be me. Look, I can't leave out Jack, and he inspired me to come over to England. He inspired me as a keeper, and I've talked about it with that leg side stumping of Dean Jones off Gladstone Small at Perth.
Yeah,
I got to work with him, and also he was a good batter as well. He was gritty and nuggety. And when I've got Freddie and Stokes, as my engine room, I think that's where I can fit, and his keeping craft is needed. So that's where my keeper is, Jack Russell.
You got spinner?
Yeah, Swan comes in next.
Yeah, and then
Anderson and Broad. You can't leave them out either.
Yeah, so so go for your full side.
Gooch, Cook, Vaughan, Root, KP, Flintoff, Stokes, Russell, Swan, Anderson, Broad.
Yeah, mine's very similar. Mine is Cook, Stewart, Gower, Root, Peterson, Flintoff, Botham, Swan, Goff, Broad, and Anderson. I've got a lot of bowling there. Got 5 quick. So I think Goffy's got to get in. I think he's he in that era. Him and Caddick were the Broad and Anderson, weren't they, of their time? And I think Goffy just with the character and what he is, I think he would get into a decent England 11.
Yeah, but I understand it. But I suppose this is where me being a bit older. Sorry, younger. Am I younger than you?
Yeah,
I feel I am.
yeah.
Yeah, so that's where you've picked a few of the old grey-haired ones.
Is it your birthday?
I've been
Only 50 in a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm way past that.
So that's where I went for those 2 modern greats.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, Gower. I think Gower and both of them. I think Gower, probably one of the best bats ever. Gave it away a bit too much, probably, and then the Lord Botham obviously getting some runs. But that does. We both picked 2 all-rounders in our side, but the actual England side have got a big hole, haven't they? Because who is going to fill that Stokes position? We spoke about that before. We spoke about it before the Oval Test because, I was doing my normal. Rehan Ahmed needs to play. He gets you runs and gets wickets, but you were. Stokes' bowling and the pace he bowls at makes him, a better rounder. So What do you think, then, mate? Do you think? Actually, the question is, do we need an all round?
Well, this is where I suppose a bit of I was thinking about it today again out in the field as to who, and there's not there's not a quick all rounder, fast. Let's call them a fast, medium to fast bowling all rounder that sort of is up and coming. Jamie Overton, Craig Overton. Who's played? Which one of those? Which one?
Don't know which one it is.
Jamie's the one
Jamie
that
played.
played. Jamie's the one that played more. Yeah, and he's played more for England. He's sort of a bit like a Stokes in that regard. As your seeming all rounder who could potentially come in, but he's probably a bit past the time they're willing to pick him, and he's also had his injuries. He's a bit more white ball focused. And there's some young guys at the Lions. Ekan Singh,
Yeah.
Kent was someone that
You mentioned
they're
him
looking
before,
at
didn't you?
as
Yeah.
but he's nowhere near ready. He's raw, but he's potentially someone you put an asterisk next to and you watch. So it led me to think about can I think out of the box, and it doesn't have to be a Botham, it doesn't have to be a Flintoff, it doesn't have to be a Stokes. And the one that I sort of from watching him at the Lions, and I think he can bat high enough, and also he feels is James Coles from
Yeah. Okay.
Sussex,
Yeah. Good shout.
because he recently got a double hundred. I think he's got 600s in his career so far. What he hasn't done is set the world alight with his bowling. But I came to think about that, and I thought, well, actually, what I've sort of looked at is, can someone like the Ashley Giles sort of mould?
Yeah.
Colsey
You
is a
like that,
very
don't you?
good white ball bowler.
Yeah. Yeah. You like that sort of
Yeah, because I think if you've got
hold and end up merchant, don't you?
but they're more than that. They're attacking, but they're pressure builders, and it's more than just they're pressure builders to create something out of their end. Then they chip away, and then they get the odd five for and so that's where I quite like. And in fact, I've seen him, and I don't know, I've seen him get runs, and I've seen him bowl very well. But that was white ball cricket, and I think that white ball cricket now can be adapted well to Test match cricket.
Yeah.
When you're looking for that. So that's
Yeah.
my
It's not bad.
left
Yeah. Yeah.
field one is,
Yeah. Okay.
because I think poor old Bashir is done.
Well, you've got two places to fill. You've got the Stokes place and you've got the Bashir place, right? Because we're both saying bring in spinning all rounders. I'm saying Rehan Ahmed. You're saying James Coles. Fine. Let's say either one of those two is going to bat 7, just for sake of example, right? Because actually it's likely to be 8, isn't it? Because I think England will bring in a Cox or a Rue as another batter. Remember Australia used to, when they brought players in like Ponting. Ponting first started batting at 7, didn't he, in Test cricket? That sort of type of position where they bat them low down, bed them in, and then once they've got some runs, they put them up to 3 where they've earmarked them all along. So it depends, because then you've got 11 being freed up, haven't you? You can play 3 quicks and a spinning all rounder. You can play 4 quicks and a spinning all rounder by not playing a Cox or a Root. So it does give England more options, but it seems like the all rounder is likely to be a spinner than a medium pacer, doesn't it?
Yeah, and I'd lean more towards them needing to bat 7 and give me the ability to have 4 quicks,
Yeah,
spinning all
yeah, it's good
rounder
balance.
who
Yeah,
can bat, and then because like Gus Atkinson has showed
yeah,
that he's
yeah,
got batting ability at
yeah,
8.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, that's right. Did well with with James Smith today, didn't they? So Smith's at 6. So no
Yeah,
changes to the top 5, top 6. You've got the new person coming in at 7, Gibson at 8, and then make up the rest of the quicks. And that gives England decent balance, doesn't it? There, yeah. So my side, yeah, we've done the sides. I think that'll be a good battle, even though most of them are actually the same. There's only a few that we've got different to each other. Want to do silly point? Let's do that, shall we? Because what happened last week? Oh, Lauren Bell, you got that, didn't you? I did it the week before. Right, here we go. You ready? All right. Question 1.
just listening. Hang on, mate. I'm listening to a lot of cheering going on. I wonder if Japan have gone further ahead against
Oh,
Brazil.
yeah, because they scored early, didn't they? Oh, that'd be great, wouldn't it?
Mm.
England play Wednesday, don't they, against Dr. Congo, as my daughter called it the other day. So there you go. That's who they're playing against. Who's Dr. Congo? No, it's not that. I grew up in a tiny village in Barbados called Enterprise, surrounded by sugarcane fields. It's nice, isn't it? My parents, though, migrated to the USA and Canada when my brother and I were very young, leaving us to be brought up by our grandparents. Anyone who you know that is? Obviously, you now know where this person's from quite early. And not surprisingly, this person's education was unconventional because the local primary school, St Christopher's Boys, which is really going to help you, didn't have its own schoolhouse. So they had to go to church. The local Anglican church doubled up as up at the school. Right, that's happened before here, actually, just here in Winchester. There's an old building just around the corner from me, which from the 1300s was a schoolroom when they were building Winchester College. So there you go. A bit of history for you that you didn't know that you ever needed to know. But obviously, as a school teacher,
Sorry, mate.
Yeah,
just
as
dropped
a school
off.
teacher, you're pleased that I brought that through. More schoolboy stuff, Mr. Jones. I desperately wanted to be a batter, as did you, I think. That changed when West Indies legend Seymour Nurse saw me at a trial and bluntly told me, and I'm not going to do an accent, what's a fellow like you doing trying to bat? You're too big to be a batsman. You should be bowling. Who was that? Anyone? No? He's a fast bowler, I'll tell you that.
Well,
so
okay.
You've got your voice now.
Right.
When he first took up bowling, though, he had an awkward, ineffective sort of round arm action. And it took hours of strict mentoring from Charlie Griffith, another West Indian pace icon, to break that habit and teach him how to deliver the ball straight and proper like. Any ideas? This is, there's no sort of...
When you're talking about, immediately you think Joel Garner with height. So, I can imagine Joel Garner, made the bat look like a toothpick, didn't he?
Yeah,
so someone saw him in the net. But so I'm just trying to think. Patrick Patterson was another big man.
Colin Croft was tall, wasn't he, as well?
Yeah.
Obviously, Curtly and Courtney, big lads, the pair of them, but they're not from Barbados, though, are they? You got to remember that.
No,
This chap was the late bloomer in professional cricket. Before he made his first-class debut for West Indies call-up, he worked at Cable and Wireless. A proper job, working for Cable and Wireless. Just get a bit of cash to be able to buy his, gear that he needed. He was an overseas pro here at a club called Littleborough. I actually don't know where Littleborough is. There, he famously took all 10 wickets. Thank you. In a single innings for 31 runs. So he took 10 for 31 in an innings. I don't know who Littleborough are playing either, and I didn't find out. So there you go. Anyone so far that's coming to mind? You want to do a guess, or you going to get to the final clue, or any ideas?
No, no, because you're deliberately giving me nothing. I don't have Littleborough's stats to hand.
Yeah. I think they've got Cleveland stats. Is it Cleveland? Is that who's Cleveland? Where did you play?
Clevedon.
Oh yeah, Cleveland's up in the northeast. I've got Stokes on my mind. One of the blokes we're talking today actually remembers you bowling down there. Unbelievably.
Yeah.
I said that you said you got magic wrists, and you said you didn't. So there you have it. The extraordinary unbeaten international record for the best ever bowling figures recorded in the men's World Cup final. He took 5 for 38 at Lord's in 1979. So that's narrowing it down for you.
Mate, I was brilliant. I was 3. I was living in the highlands of Papua New Guinea, and I'm not a cricket stato, so
Tally not reach you at that point in the highlands of PNG. No. And fine, okay. What else? He walked away from international cricket in 1987. How old were you then? Well, you were born in 76, weren't you? So
11.
He was at the top of his game when he walked away. 58 tests he played and took 259 wickets.
Okay.
Bowling average just under
Decent.
21. Yeah.
I'm trying to rack my brains. So yeah, 4 greats. Go on.
Want to have a guess before the last?
This is where not really. This is where on a game show you can understand where people's brains go blank.
Yeah.
And that's a little bit of what's happening, because I've mentioned the ones I know. You've mentioned a few as well.
But you haven't made a guess.
Well, no, because all I said about someone who was very tall, and
He said
early on you just bat it the other way.
Well, that wasn't a guess, technically, was it? And your final clue is I became a beloved cult hero in English county cricket during the 70s and 80s, forming a legendary Glory Years trio at Somerset with Viv Richards and Botham. You got it after like clue 4 or something, but then didn't.
Yeah.
And I deflected with my Colin Croft stuff, fine, but you could have put a guess in, couldn't you? Or show.
Then you rule me out.
Well, I wouldn't want you as a partner on the quiz show, mate. I tell you, it'd be. Know the answer, not say it.
But you gave. But the thing with there, if I took a guess, you go, right, I win.
No.
So you've got to be. Yeah, I've got the victory. I've taken my time. I've summed up the situation. Everything we've called out England cricket to do, I've just shown. I've gone through the hard bits.
You've dug in.
Then I've. Correct. I've made an early decision. I haven't jumped on it. Yeah, and I've come out and I've collected my winner's medal at the end. All you had to do early on was say his nickname's Big Bird, and I would have been all over it. But
that's obviously that's the clue I took out. I mean, otherwise we'd be in Srishan territory, wouldn't we? Because you'd know it straight away. So, and I don't want to get to that point ever again. Right, mate, Women's World T20 World Cup's got to the semi-final stage tomorrow, which is Tuesday. It'll be the day that this comes out. Today, Tuesday. Australia play West Indies. It's at 4:30 in the UK, and it's on at that time because that was the slot that India was supposed to take, and the slot was designed for Indian TV. But India didn't get out the group stages because the other semi which is on Thursday, is England versus South Africa. What were our predictions? Do you remember? I think we both went for England. We both went for Australia and New Zealand. So let's start with that. New Zealand actually been pretty poor. I think they lost 2 or 3 games, I think. Whereas the Windies quietly just went about their business, beat whatever was in front of them pretty much. Obviously not, apart from they lost, whose group were they in? They must be obviously in England's group. So they lost to England. I think England didn't lose a game, did they? But West Indies would have beaten New Zealand along the way and have qualified. They're dark horses, aren't they? Because they were the team that caused England problems in the UAE in the last version of this.
They're very good big tournament players, West Indies, both men and the women.
Yeah.
They, and especially T20 cricket. It's a format that really resonates with them. It's when you go to the West Indies and you watch a cricket match, it's lively, and the crowd get involved, and they shout at you, and it's just constant noise. So T20 is almost perfect for the West Indies as a country. So and the Caribbean Premier League, everything like that has been a success, and that's what's rejuvenating West Indies cricket. Test match cricket, not so much, but T20 cricket and the success they've had. So we were probably a bit foolish to rule them out, but it's a surprise that India haven't made it, and so it's really opened up potentially for for several teams to win it, where a lot of people would have thought India were very much favourites.
Yeah, the Australians are dominant. I watched that game versus India yesterday. The Australians won. India got 170, I think, mainly thanks to getting about 30 or 40 off the last 2 overs. The captain, Harmanpreet Kaur, was banging the ball to all parts of Lords. But Australia lost a couple of early wickets, but Ellyse Perry and Ash Gardner both got 50s and took them over the line. And Ellyse Perry goes on and on and on, doesn't she? What a phenomenal cricketer that lady's been.
Yeah, and it shows experience, and that's where, in the helter-skelter format that is T20, if you can have experience and calm experience, come to the crease. Someone who's been there, done it, but also has that power game to be able to accelerate. And I saw a few of her shots where she was hitting beautifully straight down the
Yeah,
ground, and that's the one thing that's the one thing I try and get the Kent women to emulate and realize, because when you watch Tier One and sort of the women's cricket, the game over here is dominated by square of the wicket play, I believe, and so when I see someone like Ellyse Perry, sort of hitting the way she did, it warms my heart, because I think, yes, it's there. It can be done, and so it's a professional player, women's player in this country, watching what's going on in the World Cup and the way that the ball's being hit, and sort of learning from that. Because I think my worry is that we're going down the square play route rather than look the
yeah.
traditionally forward. So, but Ellyse Perry's magnificent, and there, we said about, are they missing Alyssa Healy? Well, clearly not.
We both said that Australia would get to the final. They'd beat New Zealand. We said Windies are there instead. No reason why we think that Australia will lose to the Windies, is there?
No, no. Well, but that's the unpredictable nature of West Indies is the only one which sort of has a little bit of a
Yeah.
thought, possibly, but the clinical nature and the dominance of Australia, I think, will just be too good.
The semi-finals on Thursday. England have looked pretty good so far. Haven't lost the game. Played really well. All facets of the game. They've fielded well, runs and wickets. Don't know how much you've seen of it, but yeah, pretty positive, England.
I think what you said there, the fielding side of it for me has, the way that they're throwing themselves around on the boundary, that they're really attacking the ball, and it's something that Charlotte Edwards spoke about, and as a team, they've really taken that on, and it's made a heck of a difference. There's been some catches that have sort of got some key players out, and then it also flowing on from the way that we're seeing the batting, and especially Danny Wyatt
Yeah,
playing.
yeah, top run scorer in the
She's
tournament.
yeah, exactly. And then so that confidence has flowed on to other players as well, and that's the thing. England's putting great scores on the board, and then with their bowling, they've got a formula.
Yeah,
They're working to it, and and the fielding's backing it up, incredibly. So you never want to get overconfident, but if looking at the way England have played, you've got to you've got to think they're going to be hard to beat, no matter who they
yeah.
come up against.
I think they've got the tougher semi because I had, even though I annoyed a vast majority of Indian cricket fans by looking like I looked, but saying that India wouldn't get out their group. Obviously, I got the standard cry more messages. I just thought South Africa were a better side, and that proved to be correct. But I also predicted that South Africa would beat England in that semi-final at the Oval because they look a very good side. It's going to be a good game, that's for sure. Any sort of leanings either way? Have you watched much of South Africa at all?
No, I haven't. I'll be honest, I haven't had the chance to. But again, they've got some senior players that they rely on heavily, haven't they? Who have got them through it at key moments, and so that's the one factor, is that England have got some players who are bringing with confidence, but weren't necessarily in, in the makeup before. Talking Sophia
Yeah,
Dunkley, she's one who's performed brilliantly, and so there's those elements. But it's good when you get to semi-finals of World Cup, you expect both teams to put on a good show, but I'm desperately hoping that England have just got that little bit too much power.
yeah, I think that's probably right. I'm going to stick with what I said at the beginning: Australia South Africa final. Australia win it just for consistency's sake, as the teams have got to the semis. But you're going with Oz England, are you?
I was England final and England winning it.
Very good. Going to any cricket? What are you up to, Kent wise? Women up to? Are they playing? Still in the back to the blast and stuff?
We have. Yeah, we've got a big match Friday. So it's our last match. I think it's the last matches for a lot of the teams Friday night. So I'm at Derby Friday night for a floodlit match, so which will be great for the girls. But it's make or break for us.
Okay.
We need to win it, and we need to win it well to qualify for finals day. So the top 4 teams go through. So it's we had a nail biting match on Sunday. So it was a double header, fantastic day at Canterbury, double header. We won off the last ball. Zina Bilal, a young 18-year-old on the Surrey Academy. We were only chasing 104, so we'd managed to, we'd managed to eke out a match that should never have gone that deep, to be honest. If we'd have won by 16 overs, we would have got a crucial bonus point, but we didn't. But last ball, their bowler, we were playing Northants. She bowled 3 great Yorkers, taken a wicket. Zina coming out to face the last ball. I'd spoken to her, we sat down, had a chat. Said, well, great Yorkers, come forward, at least give yourself maybe to get a full toss, what have you. Yeah, all good, all good. Watching, she gets down into the reverse scoops, sort of slashes it between the keeper and the short third. 4 runs with 4 needed to win. Chaos. So amazing for her, and it just kept us in the hunt to get to finals day. But crunch match Friday night. So looking forward to that, and looking forward to the Kent girls putting on a big performance. It'd be great to win with a bonus point to get us to that finals day.
Yeah, it sounds good. Good luck to the Kent women. I'm commentating on the Kent men on Sunday. They're taking on the Hampshire Hawks down at the Utilita. So that's a quick reverse fixture, isn't it? Because they played each other a couple of days ago. Kent won.
Yeah.
Hampshire had been on a bit of a run. I think they're top, and they'd won like 6 or 7 in a row. So they were looking to get that back on track
They
again.
had.
Yeah, and I was down
Yeah.
at Apex Cricket today, so watching sort of an under 15 tournament. We'll talk about grassroots cricket, but yeah, that's me. But with my press pass, which now I found out gets me into Trent Bridge as well as the Oval, I shall be using it and seeing if I can get to any of the India T20 matches. So that'd be nice, wouldn't it? We'll see how we get on.
You're just a joke, mate. You've applied for this pass, and now you're just showing up at all these random places,
meeting people, networking,
yeah,
finding out what the press
freeloading.
Yeah, what the press
freeloading off it.
I'm researching for our show. That's what I do. I sit there, listen, I earwig what the press say about certain things, and that's how we get our, our deep knowledge and my fantastic research that forms the bedrock of this amazing show. So there you go, mate. Another good show. Did you have something important to tell me, or just take the mickey out of me or anything, or are we good to go? We're good to go? Jonesy, good to see you, mate.
I'm done.
I'll see you soon.